third meeting of the Housing Commission's Homeownership Subcommittee. My name is Karen Surface and I'm the chair. And I'd like to start off the meeting by asking folks to introduce themselves. And I'll start with myself. Again, my name is Karen Surface. I'm a housing counselor with the Latino Economic Development Center, and I work very closely with Arlington County on their homeownership programs, including providing homebuyer education and housing counseling. And so moving on to maybe if Joe, because I sort of maybe by the people I can see on my screen, if you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, good morning, everybody. My name is Joe Nelson. I'm with Chambridge Bank. We're a local community bank. In the past, we have financed some of the affordable dwelling units in Arlington County, and we continue to try to finance more.
Thanks, Joe. Is that Miranda? You want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yep. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Miranda Carter. I'm Arlington resident and broker owner of Miracasa Real Estate Solutions. Karen and I go way back with A-Home days when I was on the board there, trying to solve this exact same problem of more affordable home ownership.
Thanks, Miranda. Let's see, in my top right screen, I guess it's one of our fellow commissioners, Merlene.
Landlord Commission rep, and I also am the Deputy Director for Economic Development in the City of Fairfax.
Thank you. Richard?
It's Richard Donahoe. I'm with the Marist Bank Mortgage, and I'm a loan officer that, like Joe Nelson, helps with the 80 units in Arlington using VHDA and other loan products. And I help teach classes for the VHDA class with Karen when needed.
Thanks, Richard. Let's see here. Patty Klein.
Good morning. I'm Patty Klein, Executive Director with Rebuilding Together, and we make critical home repairs and accessibility modifications for low-income homeowners, particularly seniors who want to age in place.
Thanks, Patty. Let's see, Joshua.
Hi, Josh Vaverka. I'm the Government Affairs Director for the Northern Virginia Association of Realtors.
Thank you.
I'll jump in as the other Josh. I'm Josh Childs with AHC. I'm a development manager. We mostly do multifamily affordable LIHTC development now, but we've had some good success partnering with homeownership in Arlington County, obviously well before my time. But
thanks, Josh's.
Thanks,
Mike.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mike Heminger, the Housing Commission rep alongside Karen, and I'm also the president of the NAACP Arlington.
And the other Mike?
Hi, Mike Spotts, Director of Real Estate Development for Habitat for Humanity of DC and Northern Virginia.
Okay. So I don't know, maybe Elise can help me with the rest who don't have their camera on and I can't figure out who they are.
Sure. I'm Elise Cleva. I'm a communications specialist for Arlington's Department of Community Planning, Housing, and Development. And I am part of the homeownership study. So I will just go alphabetically down the list of meeting attendees here. Alice Hogan, would you like to introduce yourself?
Good morning, I'm Alice Hogan. I'm a housing policy consultant with the Alliance for Housing Solutions. Happy to be here.
Okay, next, Fresney Bonilla. Okay, well, welcome. And if you do want to introduce yourself, just like raise your hand or come on camera. Gisela Vasquez.
Hello, good morning. My name is Gisela Vasquez. I'm a housing counselor for Centro de Apoyo Familiar, CAF. A pleasure to be here.
Great.
Thank
Jacqueline.
you,
Oh, sorry. Jacqueline Snelling.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Snelling. I'm from the Arlington County Civic Federation.
Okay, I'm sorry, Ms. Bonilla.
Sorry about that. My mute didn't come off. My name is Fresi Bonilla. I am also with Centro de Apoyo Familiar here in Arlington, Virginia, Maryland, DC, and also Massachusetts. I'm a housing counselor, and I am the project manager here in Maryland.
Great, nice to meet you. Kellen Macbeth.
Hi, I'm Kellen Macbeth, Chair of the Housing Commission.
Great, thank you. Kitty Stevenson.
Good morning. It's Kitty Clark Stevenson, board member AHS.
Great, thank you. Someone, I think, I'm not sure if this is a first name or a last name, but Lazaro.
Hi, yes, good morning. I'm just a community member joining the meeting.
Okay, great, thanks. Let's see, Michael De Palma.
Good morning, everyone. Michael De Palma. I'm a resident. I'm also an Arlington Public Schools employee. So I listened to this. I've been listening to this since the beginning, the onset of it, just to keep in the loop. So thank you all.
Okay, great, welcome. And Michelle Doherty.
Hello, everyone. I welcome to the gloomiest day, it seems, that we've had in a week here in Arlington. Well, I am a resident here in 22204. I am also a realtor with Arla at Properties and a very proud Northern Virginia Association of Realtor member.
Great. Okay, Karen, I'm not seeing anyone else listed among meeting attendees who has not introduced themselves, I think.
I see Pat. Maybe she can introduce herself.
Yeah, hi, I'm Pat Findikolu. I'm with Voice, and we're always interested in all things housing.
Thanks, Pat. So great. Now that we're all here, again, welcome to the third meeting of the Housing Commission's Homeownership Subcommittee. So I think we can go to the next slide. So this morning, this is our agenda. Akiria Brown is going to give us some homeownership study updates, and then we're going to jump into the analysis of existing homeownership programs, and we're going to go ahead and talk about all the programs that are administered through the county, as well as some of the external resources that help new and existing home ownership or homeowners. Also, this presentation will describe how the county's existing programs are performing and help inform future program recommendations. And then lastly, Elise will go through our the overview of how we're going to do the communication and engagement for this study. So without any further ado, Akiria, I'll turn it over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Karen. And I did not introduce myself. My name is Akiria Brown, and I work here in the Department of in the Housing Division in the Department of Community Planning and Housing Development. And I work primarily in the homeownership programs. So thanks so much, Karen, for kicking us off. I want to mention initially that I will be providing some updates on where we are in terms of the homeownership study, but my colleague Elise Cleva, as Karen stated, will be providing a more in-depth synopsis of updates and next steps in later on in today's meeting. So 2 quick updates. We recently released interactive maps and tables to our webpage. So those items are now live. Feel free to take some time to explore those. Let us know if you have any questions when you have the opportunity. Secondly, we've scheduled roundtables, and again, Elise will go a little further into this, but we've scheduled roundtables to obtain feedback from lenders and realtors on topics related to barriers, opportunities, and strategies to help support moderate income purchasers. And those roundtables are expected to take place this month, and we'll also be moving into next month on the roundtables. So we are expecting to schedule our next subcommittee meeting sometime around April in order to be able to share the feedback that we received from those roundtables. So on to today's main item. This week, we published the analysis of existing homebuyer programs. These are programs that are operated directly by the county, as well as those that are provided by third parties through county support. The county's Affordable Housing Master Plan and Implementation Framework, along with the decline in homeownership prospects for moderate income households, made it clear that there is a need for coordinated program development and resource allocation. It's important that we appropriately target and equip potential buyers with strategies, but also access to financial support to purchase a home. And this is why we're here. We have a lot of insight, but not all the answers. So forums such as this one and the ones that we intend to embark on in the coming months will help us to chart a clearer path to help reach those goals. So one additional note, I want to point out that there is not an expectation that you have read the analysis of existing programs. I will cover highlights today, and we will continue to refer back to the county's programs in our upcoming conversations. So I will discuss homebuyer education, down payment assistance, our affordable dwelling units, as well as interest rate reduction programs and additional programs that are for moderate income homebuyers as well as existing homeowners. So nearly every instance of the term moderate income in this document and in this presentation refers to households at 80% of AMI. So for a household of four, we would be looking at a maximum income of about $113,840. And these are annual income limits that are published by HUD. Typically published in April or around April. This year, they'll actually be a little bit later, but most of the programs that are cited in our analysis and in today's presentation target moderate income households at that 80% level. Some of the programs, however, target households up to 120% of the area median income. So one of the first steps along the road to sustainable homeownership is a well-rounded understanding of the fundamental concepts of the home buying process, right? So homebuyer education really helps prospective buyers to assess their overall readiness to purchase. And it does so by offering instruction on the process of obtaining a mortgage, what the costs are associated are, the responsibilities associated with obtaining a mortgage or purchasing a home, and then basic personal finance. Arlington provides financial support to the Latino Economic Development Center, or LEDC, the organization that Karen Surface is with, for their in-person homebuyer education program. In-person courses are offered on a rolling basis and in various county locations. So a total of 199 Arlington residents completed LEDC's in-person homebuyer education course between FY19 and FY22. Course participation was fairly consistent in FY19 and FY20. However, the FY21 course participation steeply declined in large part due to the impact of COVID. In FY22, however, participation grew slightly, but had not increased to levels seen prior to COVID. And the primary reason for this is that during COVID, a lot of would-be attendees identified that there are virtual homebuyer education offerings available. One, namely, is Virginia Housing, primarily, that offers the course virtually. And although the course virtually is substantially longer than the course that's in person, we definitely have seen where households prefer to be able to take that course on their own time in their home. So that's the reason for the lower in-person rates, although I know that there are some changes that have occurred, and I think Karen can speak to that shortly. So among the 199 Arlington residents who attended the county-sponsored home ownership education from 2019 to 2022, 33 of those Arlington County residents purchased homes in locations, various locations throughout that time period. So 33 purchased homes in various locations. 18 of that 199 purchased in Arlington County. There are another 31 participants that participated that were residents of other neighboring jurisdictions but purchased a home in Arlington County. So prospective buyers from across the DC region participated in LEDC's home buyer education course. So it's not just Arlington County residents, but between FY19 and 22, among all participants prior to 2019, there were a total of 189 home purchases. 26% or 49 households purchased in Arlington. Karen Surface is the primary LEDC staffer that manages the homeowner education program. And as you can see, about 39% of those households purchased in the city of Alexandria and 29% purchased in Fairfax or Falls Church. Karen, was there anything else that you wanted to add with regard to homeownership education?
A couple of things I just want to say, and I think this was on another slide, that there really is no correlation between the time that a person takes homebuyer education and they actually purchase, because sometimes folks show up for homebuyer education classes with the intent to purchase right away, and then they figure out that they really have some homework to do. They maybe need to improve their credit or have some more savings. So it's sometimes really hard to track the homebuyer education beginning to the actual homebuyer education purchase. The other thing is a lot of people have taken the class online, which I think is wonderful. And then, but there's always people that struggle with online education. And so I think Richard, who was at my last class last Saturday, can attest to some people just prefer to come in person and also to be able to ask questions of the presenters who are volunteers. And they it's fun because they really do get into they're able to ask questions of the of the professionals that are there. So there is a lot of value added to in-person classes. So I don't think they're going to go away, I guess, but they are decreasing in size. So thanks for that.
No, thank you, Karen. I do think there is certainly a lot of value, and we see that where folks just want to be able to ask questions in real time about their own personal situation. And so it's really, really helpful to have someone that they can interface with.
Akiria, on
Yes.
that, on the online class, you have to take a quiz, read a chapter. So it's more of a question answer, even though it's open book. Than when you're
Okay.
in person, it's more, we're giving you the information and you're not getting tested on it. So some people don't like to have to take the test. Not that it's
Okay.
hard. It's just, it's a little bit of an obstacle. I hear from some that they have to get quizzed after each chapter on the online.
It makes sense. Thank you both. So on to the county's first-time homebuyer down payment assistance program. MyPAP is, or Moderate Income Purchase Assistance Program, is a first-time homebuyer program that began in 1981. And has primarily relied on community development block grant funds, which are HUD funds. It's important to note that until 2017, the county contracted with AHC to actually manage several of the homeownership programs that are referenced in this analysis, including the MyPAP and our affordable dwelling units programs. AHC provided program management that included purchaser eligibility, facilitating sales and resales, managing property renovations for resale, and overall program management. In 2017, the county assumed control of the program portfolio, which included the down payment assistance program and our affordable dwelling unit program. So MyPAP is a program that assists first-time home buyers who are at or below 80% of the area median income. And it assists them to purchase a home in Arlington County. Loans are primarily used to purchase market rate, unrestricted ownership units. MyPAP is a 30-year loan, and it is a silent second trust, which means that there are no monthly payments and there is no interest associated with these loans. So combined with the 30-year conventional first trust, which is required. So if someone is going to purchase a unit, they can get a conventional first trust from a lender, and then MyPAP will come alongside that as a second trust. Being that our loan is interest-free and it is deferred, there are no monthly payments associated with it. It really does help those households to be able to afford in the county. Annually, the county allocates $550 to about $650 to this program. And again, those resources are from CDBG or HUD funds. So there are currently about 127 active loans in the county's MyPAP portfolio. There were loans, again, that dated back to 81, but 1981, but there are currently 127 active loans. The average loan amount is about $31,000, but that is primarily due to the loan amounts that were in place well before the 2000s. 42% of the loans in the MyPAP portfolio are deferred or have no monthly payments. 58% of the loans within the portfolio do have monthly payments, and the average monthly payment is about $56 per month. So the amortizing loans, or the loans that have monthly payments, were loans that were part of prior iterations of the MyPAP program. In 2009, the county shifted from amortizing loans to deferred loans. So as you can see here, there's a small number of active loans in the northern parts of the county. Primarily, MyPAP loans are concentrated to these southern areas. And that's really more of an affordability factor. So the average MyPAP loan between FY18 and 22 was approximately $73,000. Due to increasing sales prices and fluctuating home buying trends, there were substantial year-over-year increases in average loan amounts from FY18 to FY22. In FY18, the average loan amount was about $55,000. And in FY20, the average loan amount was about $97,000. So post-COVID, in the spring of 2021, we observed many MyPAP applicants that began to gain a little bit more confidence in the economic recovery and were able to take advantage of relatively low interest rates. This was as an extension of the Fed cutting those rates. The Virginia Housing Low Interest Rate Program that's also discussed a bit later, also helped MyPAP borrowers to be able to take advantage of lower interest rates and to be able to purchase homes. The average interest rate for primary mortgage for MyPAP borrowers in between FY20 and FY22 was 3.2%. And that reflects a reduction of more than a full percentage point from previous fiscal years. So it's definitely been a journey for a lot of households to get there, but many households were able to move forward after the economic recovery, especially being that there was some reprieve with regard to student loans. There was stimulus money. And I think that all of those things kind of work together to help a lot of folks to be able to purchase. So in addition to an increase in the average loan amount and a decrease in interest rates, the average purchase price for MyPAP borrowers has steadily increased. In FY 18, the average purchase price was around $230,000. And by FY22, the average purchase price was over $330,000. Of note, though, in FY22, the average purchase price includes the purchase of 5 affordable dwelling units, which are price restricted to remain affordable into perpetuity and therefore lower in average purchase price. The Affordable Dwelling Unit Program will be discussed later. But also of note is that in FY21, there was only one MyPAP purchase, and that was for a household of 1. So by all accounts, the trajectory of MyPAP sales prices is on the rise. Lastly, as of today, the average FY23 MyPAP loan is $386,000, and the fiscal year ends June 30th.
Akira, there's a question from Kellen Macbeth.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just wondering if you also had the median purchase price for MyPAP.
We do, and there are a lot of charts that are available in the analysis, but if that's not there, I would be happy to provide that in subsequent meetings, or could just get that out to you guys in the meantime.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the MyPat program primarily, well, we serve households with income up to 80% of AMI, and that's adjusted for household size. The average income for all MyPat borrowers for FY 18 to 22 was $62,844, accounting for AMI limits for each respective year. So I think it's important to note that we can't just say that this household earned, 40% of the AMI at any given time. It's 40% of AMI for that respective year because the AMI limits change from year to year. So accounting for the AMI limits for each respective year, MyPat borrowers earn on average 65% of the AMI. So for four-person households earn on average about 89,000 or 77% of AMI for the respective year of their application. The only household made up of 5 people, so there was only one household, and that household earned $40,000, which at the time in 2018 was 34% of AMI. Of those households with below average incomes, I want to point out that transactions for their sales involved seller concessions, such as seller paying for home inspections, seller paying for recordation fees, etc., or a seller who had agreed to hold the property until a buyer was mortgage qualified. So for example, a landlord that was willing to hold on to the unit until a tenant was able to qualify for a mortgage. So those opportunities have been few and far between, but they are certainly eye-catching because it's very unusual. Is there a question?
Yeah, could I
Oh.
This might be backtracking a little bit. This is Josh with AHC. I saw I realized that maybe we shifted away from the types of homes that were being purchased. And I saw in the report that we were given before this meeting, info of like condo versus single family versus duplex homes financed with MyPap. And I wondered if you all had any information about beyond building type, like sort of age of the housing. Like, has anyone used MyPap to purchase a new build, or are these all older existing properties?
Yeah, so MyPap can be used to purchase a new build. It's important to note, though, that that MyPap borrowers have an income limit. So the income limit is 80% of the area median income. Oftentimes, households at 80% of the area median income cannot afford a brand new market rate unit. However, when the county does receive affordable dwelling units or ADUs through the development process, households that are at 80% of the area median income can afford one of those ADUs, and they can use MyPap to purchase an ADU. So to answer your question, yes, it's possible, but it's highly unlikely that anyone can use MyPap to afford a market rate brand new unit, with the exception of folks that are purchasing affordable dwelling units.
Got it.
And primarily the units that are being purchased are condominiums.
Yeah.
I think I can point that out really, really quickly.
Yeah, I saw that on like 17 of the 30. Oh, there you go. I jumped the gun.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure. And they are also primarily concentrated in the 22204 zip code.
Akira, I think we have one question from Michelle, maybe?
Okay.
I would just like to add, so a lot of those are condos, but they can be condo style townhouses. So the home ownership association might be a condo ownership, but a lot of the MyPAP recipients I've gotten to work with do purchase a condo style townhouse. And a lot of those are concentrated along the Columbia Pike corridor. Fairleightton is a little bit of 2206, but Arlington Village, some of those condo townhouse style homes along the Columbia Pike corridor have been very popular and well received for these MyPAP recipients and have worked out well. A lot of them, I believe, still even own those residents. So it's been really promising. It's worked out well for them. A lot of them being MyPAP clients.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Yes, that's absolutely the case. And we actually currently have 2 affordable dwelling units for sale at Axamite Village, which is right off of Highland. And those are townhouse style condominiums that are currently for sale. So, and that information is on our website. I can also answer any questions with regard to those units in particular. But yes, to your point, there's certainly some variety there. So in terms of MyPAP race and ethnicity, about 40% of MyPAP borrowers from FY18 to 22 were white, non-Hispanic borrowers, while Black and Hispanic households collectively make up about a little more than half of the purchasers in the county. So we have a total of 20 households over the past few fiscal years, and it looks like about 25% of them have been Black and 30% have been Hispanic. So Black households had the highest average annual income, and that's here at the 70,956, while white non-Hispanic households earn about 10% less than those Black households, but they purchased homes that are about 10% more expensive than the Black households. And so one of the primary reasons for that is really the time period of purchase. So 88% of the purchases by white non-Hispanic borrowers occurred in or after FY22, while the Black household purchases have occurred in every fiscal year. They've been kind of sprinkled throughout, with the exception of FY21, where there was only one sale, and that was of a white purchaser. So the concentration of purchases among white non-Hispanic borrowers aligned with the COVID-19 economic recovery, where again, we saw relatively lower interest rates, smaller sized households with younger buyers that account for a larger share of applicants over the past 2 fiscal years. And this is substantial. So these prospective buyers tend to have less debt, and are more willing to purchase smaller units, which are more readily available to moderate income purchasers than the larger family-sized units. Is there a question?
Akiri, I just might want to add that a lot of those people moved in with family members, and now they decided to purchase. And so they've been saving up during the pandemic.
Yep.
And that's how they've been able to make this work.
You're right. And that's actually one of my talking points, Karen.
Uh-oh.
No, thank you for bringing that up. It's absolutely the case. So what we're seeing are younger borrowers that are literally coming from mom and dads into a purchase scenario. Many are coming straight out of college. This is their first entree into the workforce. So they are a bit more financially nimble, especially where there's some reprieve in student loan repayments, and just having the capacity to be able to move into a 1-bedroom, small condo or a small 2-bedroom unit in the county. Is there another question? I think, Michelle, did you still have your hand up?
No, I forgot to put it down. My bad.
Okay. So this is just another set of borrower demographics that I think are some interesting points here. So about 65% of our households are female heads of household. 50% are one-person household. And again, I can absolutely say that going into FY23, it's more than 50% at this point, because primarily we have served one-person households this fiscal year, with the exception of maybe 2. 85% are existing Arlington County residents. 90% are unmarried. And again, that speaks a lot to the age in this particular scenario. 60% of the MyPAP borrowers had second jobs. So that also just kind of indicates the need to have additional income in order to support the goals of homeownership. There's always the need for the additional monies for repairs and especially condo fees, what we see typically being the case. 35% of the MyPAP borrowers have households that include children. The last 10 loans, where 70% of the households are, of the last 10 loans, 70% of those are households of one. So just the last 10. When we look at the primary employment categories, we're looking at administrative support, education, and health and emergency services. And I also wanted to mention that in terms of this last 10 loans, 70% of them being households of one, of that, 71% are 30 years or younger. So the Housing Division conducts follow-up inquiries with households who withdraw a complete or partial MyPAP application, because we want to really glean what we can do better, how we can help to support them, and what gaps and needs are there that exist. So from FY18 through 22, about 80 applications were submitted, 80 applications in total. 20 of those households actually purchased, which is what the basis of this analysis is. But 43 applicants, or 67% of those non-purchasers, participated in our telephone inquiries about their decision to withdraw an application. We asked questions about current housing and the status of their homeownership goals. Whenever applicable, we refer prior applicants to LEDC for financial counseling and to help support their plans to purchase. 23% had hoped to afford a larger sized unit, to include more or larger bedrooms and or additional square footage. So these were the reasons why folks had decided not to purchase, the primary reason. And so just looking at the monthly costs associated with the desired unit type, And this is primarily what we've seen are households. Many responders were surprised to learn the monthly condo fee costs associated with the units that they wanted to purchase. 21% of those households had debt, and their debt to income ratios made homeownership unaffordable even with a MyPAP loan. Of those responders, the average household size is 3 persons. So just kind of going back to households with children, more adults, perhaps you're looking at more debt as opposed to a household of one that again has a little bit more financial flexibility. And so what we've seen is that the primary goal is single individuals want space to accommodate a roommate. They want to have a den or larger living areas. But many want to also be able to eventually rent out their home to help pay their mortgage. And then the larger families want the ability to grow in their unit, and they are reluctant to purchase a condo looking at the growing condo fees. The condo fees that we typically see for MyPAP loans are about $400 to $500 a month, and that can be on a new unit, that can be on an existing unit. So now I will move to the county's Affordable Dwelling Unit Program, or ADUs. So the county's ADU program provides affordable, newly constructed and resale properties for income eligible homebuyers. ADUs are created through developer contributions in exchange for additional density in projects, and they are approved via special exception by the county or through the provisions of the Columbia Pike Neighborhood Form-Based Code. ADUs are homeownership units that carry restrictive covenants to ensure long-term affordability. So the covenants are actually recorded in the deed of trust, and they require that the initial owner and all subsequent parties that receive the title to the property or purchase the property adhere to the resale guidelines. So those units have to be sold and resold to households that meet income criteria. And I mentioned this previously, but until 2017, the county contracted with AHC to manage the Affordable Dwelling Unit Program operations. This included, but was not limited to, determining the purchaser eligibility and managing the overall portfolio viability. Currently, there are 59 homes in the affordable dwelling unit portfolio. 75% or 42 units were added to the portfolio from 2005 to 2017. So 75% of the units were added to the portfolio between 2005 and 2017. The remaining 17 units were added after 2017. All of the units added to the portfolio after 2017 were condos. 12 or 20% are affordable up to 60% of AMI, and 47 or 80% of the units are affordable up to 80% of AMI. 75% of the units are condominiums. And here you can just see where primarily the locations of the affordable dwelling units are within the county. So ADUs are primarily 2 and 3 bedroom units, with 31 3-bedroom units accounting for about 53% of the inventory. Although 3-bedroom ADUs make up the largest segment of the portfolio. 3-bedroom market rate units make up the smallest percentage of the MyPap portfolio. MyPap borrowers are rarely able to compete with buyers of larger market rate units, and this is often due to the debt to income ratio of a household that has to earn 80% of AMI. I cannot stress enough the correlation between what can be afforded and what the income limits have to be. So the income limits have to be 80% of the area median income. We cannot go above that because of the funding source. So the households at 80% of AMI can only afford but so much. ADU resales are infrequent. In the past 17 years, 11 ADU resales have occurred. Black households account for 48% of all affordable dwelling unit owners. Black households also own both single family and condos within the portfolio. Asian and Hispanic households make up about 37% of the portfolio, while white non-Hispanic households account for about 15%. So other programs that are critical to our moderate income buyers and owners consist of the Spark program through Virginia Housing. And the Spark program is used to support our efforts to increase first-time homebuyer opportunities. Spark, or Sponsoring Partnerships and Revitalizing Communities program, offers a 1% interest rate reduction for units that are used or purchased through the Virginia Housing's loan products. And that program has substantially helped a lot of our first-time home buyers. The details of how these programs operate are located within the analysis as well. The Real Estate Tax Relief Program is Arlington's program that provides an exception and or deferral for real estate taxes for qualified homeowners age 65 and older and certain totally and permanently disabled homeowners. Our Live Where You Work program is for Arlington County government employees who purchase a home in the county, and they may be eligible for a grant up to $25,000. It's a forgivable grant, and the grant does not require repayment if residency and employment tenure requirements are met. Then the Rebuilding Together program or organization, the nonprofit, really makes critical repairs at no charge for low-income homeowners. And the majority of repairs are related to health and safety and accessibility related repairs. Over the past years, the county has partnered with the city of Alexandria, and I don't think that's listed here, but we've partnered with the city of Alexandria to offer condominium education series for existing condominium owners. The series features courses that educate home owners or condo owners and potential condo owners about the structure and governance of condominiums, as well as the responsibilities of condo owners and association members. So in terms of program observations, I'm just going to move a little swiftly through these. We've seen that housing prices have increased over time, increasing the size of MyPap loan, increasing the need. MyPap borrowers tend to buy smaller 1 and 2 bedroom condos. The supply of desirable and affordable units for MyPap borrowers is absolutely diminishing, although we have a renewed interest in the program. Single purchasers are willing to purchase smaller units, but we are seeing an increase in single white, non-Hispanic MyPap purchasers. Additionally, the age range of single white purchasers is late 20s to mid 30s, many of which are living with parents until purchase or just starting in careers and able to meet income and debt criteria for their first trust mortgage. And then lastly, I did want to mention that there are ways in which we are working to develop our outreach strategies. Right now, we are looking at getting information out to existing CAF residents that we hope will help to bridge the gap between affordable rental and affordable home ownership. But these are some of the other marketing opportunities that the county has embarked on over the past number of years since we've taken on the portfolio, and we continue to do that. And we wanted to just kind of hear your thoughts on other effective means of outreach. And I think Karen will take it from here in terms of some questions. But if there are other means of outreach that you can think of at this point, I would be delighted to hear what those perspectives are. But that concludes my presentation this morning.
Thank you, Akiria. Thank you for that very thoughtful and very deep dive into our existing programs. Thank you. I don't know how to say thank you, but thank you. Anyways, I see that there's a couple questions as we go on. So let's see here. I think I saw Kellen and then I saw Merlene. So Kellen, do you want to ask your question?
Yeah, thank you. And thank you for the presentation. My question is, has staff looked at the different options available under missing middle, or perhaps the most expansive, and how that would impact MyPap in terms of eligibility, and just, would we potentially be looking at a more expansive ability of the program to help more residents, assuming that it received more funding under some of the options in missing middle?
That's a great question. I can start off by saying we have not, but I think my colleague Richard Tucker may have a little bit more meat to put on the bone there.
Hi, good morning. I'm Richard Tucker. I'm the Housing Arlington Coordinator in the Housing Division. So Kellen, your question was, connections between our existing programs and perhaps missing middle. I think there's an excellent opportunity as part of this discussion in the homeownership study about matching, our existing programs or programs that may need to exist in the future, and what's available in the marketplace. And if there are existing gaps, if we see that there's a need to fill a gap in terms of different types of funding, additional funding, program changes, this is an excellent time to talk about that. So I think I want to invite everyone to stay tuned on that. And as we get further into the process, we can start to, figure out, what some of those changes might need to be.
Thank you, Richard.
Merlene, did you want to ask your question?
I have a comment and a question. One, are we going to have public roundtables in addition to just roundtables for realtors?
Yeah, absolutely. And my colleague Elise Cleva will go a little bit further into that when she discusses the comms and engagement plan. But absolutely, that's really what we want to be able to hear from potential buyers, folks that just recently purchased. We have a list of categories of demographics that we really do want to reach out to.
In general, for housing and homeownership affordability, it's primarily about the supply of homeownership units in the county. And so without looking at that first, before we talk about like the Band-Aid programs like MyPAP, then we're missing the bigger opportunity, in my opinion, to increase the supply of homeownership opportunities. And I think, like Kellen pointed out, we have a really big opportunity with missing middle to achieve some of those goals of housing supply for homeownership. And so it would be really interesting to look at programs that maybe other jurisdictions have looked at for encouraging or incent, like if we're going to have honestly, MyPAP was created in the 1980s for a housing market that does not look like the 2023 housing market. And that's not because we haven't done enough outreach or that the program management is poor. Like, you guys have done a wonderful job. It just was created for a market that was 40 years ago, and our market does not look like that anymore. And so, like, could we better use those funds instead of for like a Band-Aid for 4 people a year, maybe actually encouraging developers to create a homeownership supply within the missing middle paradigm. So that's my perspective.
Thanks, Marlene.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I think Michelle is next, and then Mike Spots.
That was awesome. I love that thought process of making that like a paradigm with the missing middle, because I feel like that could solve a good amount of issues with the supply. Literally looking at the MLS right now, we only have 29 townhomes listed or coming soon in the entire county. That is not enough. So inventory is definitely the issue here. Besides that, I'm all for making this a robust program in the county. I just get concerned with overloading our amazing staff here. I know this program intimately, so I get to work with Miss Brown here a lot, and I love working with her. But I do fear making this a more robust program, we will work her and Miss O'Dallas to the bone. And so I want to be cautious of that going forward, because I'm all for really making this a robust system, but I want to make sure that there's the proper support on the back end for Miss Brown and Miss O'Dallas to make sure any of our Arlington community members are able to go through this MyPAP program if possible. The other side of it is I can take, partial blame. Our realtors, it's sad to me we don't have enough of them have knowledge of the MyPAP program, and maybe that's something that as an association we can work with Arlington County on, because I feel like if more realtors did know this program and the possibilities for it, I feel like the outreach and communication just in day-to-day buyer consultations could help bridge that gap. It's not the full gap, it's not the bridge to fill that gap completely, but I feel like that could be a component. And just know that the realtors are always going to be here for helping make homeownership a dream for anybody to come true. I will say I've been personally using the MyPAP program and the Virginia Housing Program to teach homebuyers specifically who meet this criteria. And we've been having home buying seminars. We call it the Buyer Novus Club. And these buyers are living at home with their parents and saving up money and getting themselves in the right position. So it's a longer haul. They're not buying in the next 3 to 6 months. But to me, that's part of the solution, is doing consistent outreach like that. Back in 2011 and 12, we did do a lot of community outreach as realtors and associations at like the Knox Civic Association Day, all the civic association days that were out there. We did a lot of that kind of stuff. So I don't know if moving forward, that's something that we could also partner with you guys on. But really proud of this program. I get to see it be a huge success on the back end. So I just want to thank you guys for all your hard work.
Thank you so much, Michelle. And yeah, you and I have talked about me joining some of the Buyers Club events, and I think we have one on the calendar for next month. So we're actually trying to make that happen. Thank you for your remarks.
Mike?
Yeah, so if we look, I'm in my role with Habitat now, but up until November, my past job was studying state and local policies for affordable housing more generally, and housing affordability more broadly. So one of the things that other jurisdictions have done is invest in affordable home ownership development. There are a number of communities that do have, similar to AHIF on the rental side, production funding for affordable home ownership opportunities. Now sitting in my Habitat role, that might advocating for that is probably, we obviously would support for development of affordable housing. So that's kind of obvious from where I sit now. But I will say that I want to make 2 points. One regarding missing middle is, when we're talking about affordable home ownership, because there's not those, as complicated as our rental subsidies are in the United States, there's a system for them. There is a formula that is hard to put together, but there is a replicable formula that enables for the development of affordable rental housing at scale. That is often lacking for the development of affordable home ownership, and that makes sort of every affordable home ownership development sort of this bespoke effort where you're cobbling together different funding sources, with the exception of those communities that do have local revenues for affordable home ownership development. And if you look at the development dynamics in Arlington, it gets back to that supply issue. Where could our subsidy dollars aren't going to be as large for affordable home ownership development. So it really comes down to those missing middle opportunities, because a Habitat is rarely going to be able to compete for those large sites that have to go through site plan 2 years, can cost $2 million just to get the land use approvals. So that it's going to be hard for a home ownership developer, not that they can't, but it'll be hard to compete for those, which means, and right now in our single family neighborhoods, we can't compete for those sites and make them affordable, because the amount of subsidy just isn't there. So missing middle does create an opportunity for affordable homeownership development, where you're getting that sort of economies of scale of adding modest density, but also leveraging some of our existing supports and subsidies. I'm sorry, I lied. There's 3 points I want to make. That's one. The second is on the importance of the condo initiative. I think this is really important initial steps that the county is making right now, because a lot of our affordable inventory on the homeownership side is in aging condo properties, and townhome style condos are one thing to manage. They're still fairly self-contained. A lot of the ownership and maintenance is still within the purview of the homeowner. But for our larger multifamily condos, where a lot of the systems are more common maintained, the degree of difficulty in keeping them up over time, especially as they age and people may not there might not be the consensus about raising condo fees in order to keep the systems upgraded. I think that it's a very, very difficult challenge. So I'm really glad that the county is working with the city of Alexandria to take that on, because I think that if we look at the sticker price of some of these affordable condominiums, and they're not income restricted, they're just naturally affordable condominiums, sometimes that masks some of the challenges of the property and whether that actually is a good investment for the homeowner. And then the third piece that I wanted to say is, as we're thinking through how we make our best use of resources, the question then becomes, if we're only going to get a couple units a year, given the amount of investment we made, should we switch to the deed restricted model and dedicate all of our resources to the deed restricted model that's in the ADU program to create permanent affordability? Because a lot of times when we support with MyPAP is great, and maybe we keep MyPAP as it is, but as we think about future programs, if we're only going to get a couple units, we probably want to think about ways that we can make those units permanently affordable, so that we're not constantly chasing our tail as the market continues to appreciate. So as we think about program structures moving forward, I think that's something that's important to keep in mind, the structure of those programs and the tools that are available, like the new Virginia statewide community land trust that is able to operate in Arlington, but we haven't been able to put together the opportunity yet. So just, I know I threw a lot out there and I apologize for rambling, but I wanted to make those points.
No, thank you so much. I think we can take Kellen, Karen, and then we'll wrap it up with a couple really quick questions because I know we're right up against time.
Thank you. So I had sort of two questions. Sorry. The first one, I think I had asked before, but I think the answer was no. Has Arlington staff had an opportunity to talk to DC about the Black Homeownership Fund that they're setting up? And is that something that this study is potentially exploring to help bridge the huge gap between Black and white homeownership in Arlington? And secondly, one of the things that I hear quite often in historically Black neighborhoods in Arlington, like Green Valley and Halls Hill, is concerns about as older Black homeowners pass away, that their heirs can't afford to um, hold on to or purchase their home, and so they end up leaving Arlington, and we're losing those Black families. Does the county do specific outreach to like our historically Black neighborhoods to talk about the different home ownership programs that are available and ways to help them come up with ways to potentially stay in Arlington, so that we're not losing those Black households? Thank you.
Thank you, Kellen. So to answer your first question about the Black Homeownership Fund, so I do have a colleague in DC that I connected with about this program. They don't have specifics as of right now, but I do know that the program is locally funded. There is a sub portion of the residents that will be able to be to come from a pool of Black households specifically. I think that's about 30%. And that program is locally funded. So that's how they are able to work those parameters. But as soon as I have more information, I will certainly apprise this group. And then to your second question about legacy and about ensuring that historically Black neighborhoods are obtaining information with regard to maintaining their homes and keeping them. So one of the things that we are doing is just really trying to ask, where do those conversations take place? Because I want to be in those conversations. I want to be able to interface with those households and ensure that they understand what is necessary in order to maintain the home, so that they don't lose the home to tax delinquency and the like. But I think that's one of the things that we are working on, and we hope to gain more insight into whether or not there are dedicated forums to have those conversations, and then bring in the professionals to help with estate planning and the like, where we are not necessarily adept, but we know that there are professionals that are interested in working with communities of color, in particular Black communities. Richard, did you have something?
No, I was just going to mention, I think these ideas, obviously, the things that we could be doing in the future. This is, exactly the conversation we want to have. And just a reminder, in subsequent meetings, we'll be talking about vision and goals. So we'll, try to, at a high level, understand, where we're trying to get to, and then do the program evaluation, including what our neighboring jurisdictions may do or places around the country may do that may be great ideas, so that we can formulate recommendations in terms of how we would like to go forward. So changes to existing programs, new efforts that help us to achieve the vision and goals that we're going to be establishing. So all of this conversation we're having right now really contributes to that. So again, I'm encouraged by how many people are involved with this meeting and have been involved so far. And we just want to, I want to encourage everyone to stay tuned and stay involved and continue to bring these ideas. And by the end of this process, we're going to pull it all together And I think we'll have some exciting new things to talk about in terms of, what Arlington can do to achieve, affordable homeownership. So I see that, and I'm just taking over here. There's 3 more hands up, and we do want to get to our next element. So uh, I guess I'll just call on Alice to try to be very quick.
Thanks, Richard. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, I'm just asking about, a more robust program. If we look forward, we're able to help maybe 20 or so households. We really need this to be tens and scores more. How do we ramp this up? And one of the things, obviously, if we had local funding that could, support and have less restrictions, that might be one. And to that end, we've always focused on 80% and lower, but that feels to me like less and less feasible in this market, and few people who are going to be able to achieve and maintain homeownership. Do we want to consider going up to 100% with any new funding where people have a little bit more, stake in the market and could achieve some closer to some of the current sales prices? I'm just throwing that out for consideration. Thank you.
So I was wondering if we want to just continue with the presentation, and then we have maybe have a little bit more time at the end for the 2 or 3 other people that have questions. So Elise, should we ask these questions? We'll go, maybe we should do the communications. I don't want to miss out the communication and engagement, and then we'll go back to the questions. So if people have to hop off, that we can stay on for a little while longer.
So I actually have an alternative to suggest. The comms and engagement presentation is not a 10-minute presentation. I fit it into 20. So what about if I record the presentation and send around a video of it and a feedback form to all of the subcommittee members so that you can ask questions and share ideas, and that we can really have robust engagement about community engagement, rather than trying to do it in the remaining 10 minutes we have this morning. And maybe just come online and say yay, nay, if you think that would work.
I think that sounds like a great idea, Elise. So we don't have to rush through your community engagement. So
thank you.
We'll go ahead and take the questions, and then here are some other questions that you may want to think about as you ask your questions and provide comments. So I think Jacqueline, was she next?
If I'm next, I'm here. This is Jackie Snelling, and I had mentioned Civic Federation. Have you done presentations, or would you consider presentations similar to this one, but focusing on the legacy issue for our traditionally Black home ownership areas like Green Valley and Langston and Halls Hill?
Sure. So when you say legacy issue, are you referring to estate planning?
Well, yes. I mean, I guess estate planning is certainly part of it, but also part of it is for the next generation, the education that they would need now to be getting ready to be able to acquire the homes, and what programs would be available that might make that a different option than what they might otherwise think. So if they're, to be aware of what support they might be able to get at that time, and to build that into their estate planning.
I think that's certainly something that we can take a look at. I don't know how that could be implemented, but I certainly feel like it's it's vital in order to, ensure that the next generation understands what would be necessary to maintain the home. We have talked about possibly working with college students, possibly working with high school students on to some degree. But I think a lot of what the outcomes are going to be, really, it's going to be determined from this journey over the next coming months, and what our actual recommendations will be at the finality of all of this.
Okay, I guess what I'm saying is right now, I know from having had discussions with some of these civic association leaders that these are issues of concern, obviously, for them, and that you could schedule probably now initial conversations and briefings for their leadership and for civic associations, and then follow on as you develop the program, but just begin to establish very specific targeted outreach and education to our traditionally Black neighborhoods.
That's really helpful. And I think that is something that will be a little bit more expounded upon in Elise's communication and engagement plan, because we've really done a lot of work in determining how we're going to go about that very deliberately. We have a number of organizations that we are going to be reaching out to. And I think this idea would be another one that we can add to that list.
Well, they're interested now. I mean, I have had those conversations. They are interested in a closer relationship now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think there was a question from Lazaro, I believe. Does he still have a question?
Yep. Hi, everyone. Good morning. Can you hear me? Awesome. Yes, so I'm currently an Arlington resident. I live with my husband here in Arlington on the Columbia Pike corridor. Super excited because I'm going through the MyPAP process right now with the help of Karen, Akiria, and Odalis. So through the process, right, I've noticed, everything is well, but there's something that kind of came through that I think could maybe use improvement, and that's with the residency requirement. I kind of took a step back when I read that non-Arlington residents can apply for a MyPAP loan, and that's great. But I believe that someone who has roots in Arlington should get priority drawing instead of just like an additional lottery drawing. I think a first round should be only for folks who live here, who pay taxes in Arlington, who has a history here in Arlington. And if an Arlington resident can't be identified in the first round, a second round should include someone who maybe does not live in the county. And based on like other jurisdictions in the area, I've noticed that in Alexandria, Falls Church, et cetera, they do have that requirement. So I was just curious to see in the future, I would hate to see a family who is from Arlington lose to someone who has no history here in this county. So that was just something I wanted to share.
Thank you, Lazaro. That's certainly something that we have on our list to possibly look at throughout this process.
Thank you, Kiri.
So I think, Merlene, do you want to make a comment? I don't know if you're next, but you're next on my screen. And you may be muted.
Muted, thank you. I wanted to address the first question on here, which is that I think that, averaging out to like 4 participants in MyPAP has indicated success. And I think that after conversations from previous years about some of the reasonings behind that, which have included things like the income requirements and restrictions and the home purchasing limit, the cost of a house today is significantly higher than it was many years ago, and that we might want to consider upping the limit on the housing price for the MyPAP program. And I think that we also could in addition to doing something like that, look at what other Northern Virginia jurisdictions have done. Like ADU in Loudoun means affordable dwelling unit, and it's for home purchasing programs. And so looking at other Northern Virginia jurisdictions that have encouraged development, so that I guess this is more for number 4, that have encouraged home ownership development through their ADU programs, that's allowed through the site plan review process. Those have typically been through like single family house developments, sometimes condos though, and being able to potentially incorporate something like that into missing middle in how we look at approvals for those site plans. I actually just realized that was a ridiculous statement, because the idea would be to make them not have to go through a site plan review process. But maybe even looking at the site plan review process for our like Langston Boulevard, or other types of development processes that require site plan approvals, and incorporate home ownership aspects into it, because right now it's exclusively going into sorry, I'm like too many acronyms. The one that goes into apartment buildings for like AHC, and I'm just blanking on the acronym. AHIP, thank you. And potentially looking at home ownership opportunities that are targeted for people that have historically had lacked access to home ownership and wealth building.
Thanks, Marlene. Alice, do you still have a comment, or did you forget to lower your hand?
Sorry, I forgot to lower my hand, but I did put out my question about, it sounds similar to Nicole's, about 2 aspects, the looking at the price limits and also at raising the income thresholds, to see if more people could participate who, are we analyzing how feasible purchasing is for 80% households, and long-term, are we tracking these people? Are they able to keep up with condo fees and things like that at that income level?
Thank you. So we are right up against 10 a.m. So let's see, how do we want to do this? So Elise, you're going to send out the recording of your presentation. And our next step is our next meeting sometime in April.
Right. And we will be sending out just information about what's going to happen with our next meeting, and hopefully get that on the calendar as soon as possible. But it certainly will be following those roundtables that we anticipate having over the next 2 months.
So with that, thank you for joining us this morning. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend and that you're able to enjoy this wonderful weather that we have, and move forward as we think about how we can increase homeownership opportunities for folks in Arlington County. So again, thanks for joining, and look for additional updates on that website. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Wonderful time.
Thank you. Thanks,
Goodbye.
everyone.
Thank you all.